Long, long ago, in a remote mountain village of Yeongdong, Chungcheongbuk Province, there lived a poor but loving couple. The husband, Kim Seo-bang, was a diligent woodcutter, and his wife, Ok-neo, helped make ends meet with needlework and weaving. Though poor, they were happy together. Every morning, Kim Seo-bang would carry his A-frame carrier and head to the mountains to gather firewood. "Be careful today, dear husband," Ok-neo would say, adjusting his collar. "Don't worry, I'll be back by sunset," he'd reply with a bright smile as he climbed the mountain path. Ok-neo would wave until he disappeared from sight. But one fateful day, while gathering wood, Kim Seo-bang missed his footing and fell into a deep ravine. Ah! He struck a large rock and severely injured his back. Villagers rushed him home, but Kim Seo-bang could not rise from his bed. Day by day, Kim Seo-bang's condition worsened. Ok-neo sold even their rice jar and soy sauce crock to buy medicine, but nothing helped. "My dear, I'm sorry. Because of this worthless man," Kim Seo-bang wept. "Don't say such things. You will get better," Ok-neo said, wiping away tears as she held his hand tightly. 3 months passed. Kim Seo-bang could barely swallow even a sip of water. Ok-neo looked at her husband's face and prayed to the heavens. "Oh heavens, take my life if you must, but please spare my husband." Her face, worn from nursing him day and night, had become as gaunt as his. One evening, as Ok-neo was drawing water from the village well, a Taoist priest with a white beard appeared. "Madam, you seem to carry a great burden," he said. Ok-neo poured out her husband's story. The Taoist pondered for a moment, then spoke. "There is one way, but cut off the leg of a corpse buried less than 3 days ago, boil it thoroughly, and feed him the broth. Then he will recover." Ok-neo stumbled backward in shock. A corpse's leg. The energy of the dead can revive the dying, but it must be a body buried within 3 days. Beyond that, it has no effect. With those words, the Taoist vanished into the darkness. Returning home, Ok-neo couldn't sleep all night. A corpse's leg. How could I do something so horrible? But seeing her husband barely breathing, her heart felt torn apart. Tomorrow, no, even tonight, Ok-neo steeled her resolve. For her beloved husband, she could do anything. The next morning, bells tolled through the village. A young man from the neighboring village had died of illness and would be buried today. Ok-neo's heart raced. A corpse buried within 3 days. She spent the entire day restless, waiting for sunset. In the evening, she saw the funeral bier ascending the mountain. That night, Ok-neo took out a sickle from the kitchen and carefully sharpened it. Her hands trembled violently. Forgive me, she prayed silently countless times. Deep in the night, even the dogs stopped barking. Ok-neo changed into black clothing and hid the sickle in her skirt. Then she quietly left the house. Under the faint moonlight, Ok-neo climbed the mountain path step by step. Every time the wind rustled the trees, she jumped in fright. Should I turn back? No, for my husband, she repeated to herself, quickening her pace. The eerie hooting of an owl echoed through the darkness. In the distance, burial mounds began to appear. Arriving at Deokdae-gol graveyard, Ok-neo found the freshly mounded grave. Kneeling on the cold ground, she clasped her hands and bowed deeply. Please forgive me. This is to save my dying husband. I will never forget this debt. Tears streaming down her face, she took out the sickle. With trembling hands, she began to dig through the earth. Ok-neo dug desperately. Her nails broke and her fingers bled, but she didn't stop. After digging for some time, white burial shrouds began to appear. Her heart pounded as if it would burst. Now. With trembling hands, she pulled back the shroud. The pale face of a young corpse was revealed. "Forgive me, forgive me." Tears streaming, Oknyo raised the sickle. The moment she placed it against the corpse's leg, she squeezed her eyes shut. Slash! The sound of the blade cutting through flesh rang out. Oknyo used all her strength to sever the leg. At that moment, "My leg, give back." An unbelievable thing happened. The dead corpse suddenly stood up. "Give me back my leg! Give me back my leg!" The corpse hopped on one leg, shouting. Oknyo screamed in absolute terror. "Ah!" Clutching the severed leg, she began running down the mountain. "Give me back my leg! Give me back my leg!" The corpse chased Oknyo at an unbelievable speed. Hop! Hop! The sound of it jumping on one leg grew closer and closer. Oknyo ran down the mountain path with all her might. Thorns tore her clothes and scratched her face, but she had no time to look back. "Give me back my leg!" The corpse's voice came from right behind her. Oknyo stumbled and rolled, but kept getting up and running. She was gasping for breath. Just to the house. Just to the house. She could see the village lights below. The corpse's cold hand grazed her skirt. "Ah!" Oknyo used her last ounce of strength to pull free and ran down toward the village. Finally reaching her house, Oknyo burst through the door and frantically bolted it shut. Running to the kitchen, she lit the fire and set a large pot of water to boil. "Give me back my leg! Give me back my leg!" The corpse had arrived outside. Bang! Bang! The pounding on the gate was thunderous. Crash! The gate broke. The corpse leaped into the house. "Give me back my leg!" Screaming, Oknyo plunged the leg into the boiling water. Splash! At that moment, the corpse shrieked and collapsed. "Ah!" The corpse fell to the floor, writhed briefly, then stopped moving. The next morning, Oknyo cautiously stepped into the yard. The corpse from last night was nowhere to be seen. In its place lay a single enormous wild ginseng root. Astonished, Oknyo opened the pot. Inside, a deep red ginseng broth was boiling. A savory and mystical fragrance filled the entire house. Oknyo hurriedly ladled the broth and fed it to her husband. 1 spoonful, 2 spoonfuls. Miraculously, color began returning to Kim Seobang's face. And 3 days later, a miracle occurred. "Dear, I can walk!" Kim Seobang stood up. Her husband, who couldn't move for 3 months, was completely healed. The villagers who saw the enormous ginseng in the yard were stunned speechless. This is a 1,000-year-old ginseng," an herb gatherer exclaimed. The ginseng sold for an astronomical price, and Oknyo and her husband became wealthy overnight. Not only did they escape poverty, they came to live in a large, fine house. Oknyo and Kim Seobang never forgot the blessing they received. They dug a well for the village and distributed rice and clothes to poor neighbors. Especially, they sought out the family of the young man who had lent his leg that night and cared for them devotedly. "Thank you. Because of your son, we can live like this." Oknyo performed ancestral rites for that family every year. This story shows that sincere devotion and courage for a loved one can move the heavens. Oknyo overcame her fear to save her husband, and heaven recognized her true heart and rewarded her with ginseng. It also reminds us how important it is to remember blessings received and share them with others. This story shows that sincere devotion and courage for a loved one can move the heavens. Oknyo overcame her fear to save her husband, and heaven recognized her true heart and rewarded her with ginseng. It also reminds us how important it is to remember blessings received and share them with others. Even today, in the foothills of Bakdal Mountain in Yeongdong-gun, Chungcheongbuk-do, there is a place called Deokdae-gol. This story has been passed down through generations here, and people came to believe that wild ginseng is a miraculous herb and a gift from heaven. Above all, they took to heart the lesson that true love and sacrifice are always rewarded.